Alright, so I wanted to make a video right now because I'm very frustrated and annoyed with people trying to force the statin association on people with anti-HMGCR myopathy, which is a type of myositis. Now I'm going to read you this. This is an actual study from neurology.org, okay? And it says here, our data suggests that myopathies associated with HMGCR antibodies should not be called statin myopathies. It also says up here, 3 patients with slowly progressive proximal weakness were initially thought to have limb-girdle muscular dystrophies, but had no histologic or molecular diagnosis despite extensive testing, which was in my case. And then also, all the way up here at the top of the article, it says, only a minority of patients with HMGCR antibody-associated myopathies have a history of statin exposure. Only a minority. And I can show you over here in my own studies. This is a document I put together where I have cited my sources with credible references all throughout. And here it says also, it says that anti-HMGCR, let me get there's that. Anti-HMGCR, IMNM, which is immune-mediated necrotizing myopathy, only occurs in a small proportion of statin users. Okay? Then it goes down here, and also, that even the guy who discovered, him and his team discovered it from Johns Hopkins, the anti-HMGCR antibodies, they discovered it, and he himself says statins are one important trigger, but neither necessary nor sufficient to cause anti-HMGCR. And it goes down here to say, only a minority of patients was found to have previous statin exposure. And says most patients with anti-HMGCR antibodies are not induced by statins. So it's not drug-induced. Only a small percentage of patients with anti-HMGCR antibodies have a history of taking statins. And then this article here that I just read to you says our data suggests that myopathies associated with HMGCR antibodies should not be called statin myopathies. So the reason why I'm making this video is because I'm frustrated that because this is all the funding, this is called research bias, by the way, where the only way in which these doctors are able to really get the funding to study the anti-HMGCR autoantibodies is through the statin association aspect, which hurts the rest of us who are the majority of us, I should say, who are non-statin induced, who do not have the same features or have, need a different protocol than, say, someone who's statin induced. And it also skews medical information and data so that it's not accurately reflecting our actual diagnosis. And I'm going to show you how that's happening with me. So for instance, here on this, it says my diagnosis is HMGCOA myositis, okay? So they're calling it a myositis, which is good because that's what it is. And this is the code. They're using 2 codes. This code, the M60.9, is the myositis code for the diagnosis. But the one next to it, T466X5A, let me show you what that means. What that means, the T46X5A, is a code for an adverse effect of anti-hyperlipidemic and anti-arteriosclerotic drugs during initial encounter. So not only did they put the diagnosis was the HMGCR myopathy or myositis, but they're putting the drug-induced aspect next to it, which is not true. I have not had statin exposure, and this was not drug-induced. But even on my patient portal, it also says drug-induced muscle inflammation. This is medical mistake. This is language and terminology that is not correct, as I've shown you through these actual studies and all of these citations that I've used, all from credible sources that are updated. They're not outdated sources, so they're within the last 5 years. And mind you, anti-HMGCR antibodies were not discovered until 2010, so they are still learning more. But what I'm finding is the research bias and trying to forcefully associate everyone who tests positive for anti-HMGCR myopathy. They're trying to force the statin association on everyone, as I've just shown you through even what they're doing with me. Even though they've acknowledged and told me that they know it's not statin or drug-induced, they are still putting that code and that on my file. This is wrong, and so it's just really frustrating. So I wanted to make this video to clarify that what I have is non-statin associated anti-HMGCR myopathy, which is a type of myositis. So what type of myositis is it? Okay, the type of myositis that it is called an immune-mediated necrotizing myositis, non-statin associated anti-HMGCR.